Everybody had a nice lunch? Yes, a little warm out there today. I didn't walk too far. A little contrast within here. Yeah.
Did you say that transcripts of testimony would be available to us, or is
No, not necessarily. Not automatically, certainly. Yeah. You may need to see if I turn up your volume or whatever it is, because we're doing what we can. So, if you'd face the clerk and be sworn, please. Ma'am, raise your right hand and be sworn, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
May proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ma'am, can you please introduce yourself to the jury and spell both your first and last name for the court reporter?
Okay. Good evening. My name is Tameika, T-A-M as in Mike, E-I-K-A. Last name Hawkins, H-A-W-K-I-N-S. I'm hyphenated Clark, C-L-A-R-K. And please pardon my voice. I have a big voice. I think I've utilized it too much. I have 2 kids that, because I'm handicapped.
Ma'am, that's enough.
Oh, okay. That's what I'm saying.
We're not here for a conversation. You'll ask questions and you can answer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. How do you know the defendant, Mr. Segura?
He's my daughter's father.
Okay. And your daughter, Janae, that's his daughter as well, correct?
Correct.
Was she a child that y'all had together during the course of his marriage and outside of his marriage?
That's correct.
Okay. At some point after Janae was born, did you obtain a child support judgment against Mr. Segura?
Yes, sir.
And how much was that for?
The monthly amount is
The total amount of arrearages owed at the time you got the judgment.
The total amount at that time was somewhere about 20, maybe upward of $1,000.
Okay. And in the process of collecting that judgment or attempting to collect that judgment, did you get Mr. Segura put in jail at some point?
I sure did, yes, sir.
Did you get his driver's license suspended at some point?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you obtain a lien against any tax returns or tax refunds that he would receive?
Yes, sir.
Did you, in fact, obtain annual tax refunds that were supposed to have gone to him?
Yes, sir.
Okay. After you got that big child support arrearage judgment, did he come to court and deal with that? Or mediation, I guess. Did he come and deal with that?
Oh,
judgment?
during mediation? Yes,
Yeah.
sir, he did.
Okay. And as a result of him going before the judge and dealing with it, did the judgment get reduced by about $10,000?
Yes, sir, he did.
Okay. After he got put in jail and got his license suspended and all that, did he make some efforts to comply with the monthly payment requirements?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But did he ever pay in full Did he ever pay the full monthly amount regularly like he was supposed to?
When, yes, he
Let me
did.
rephrase that.
Okay, thank you.
Aside from when his wages were garnished,
Okay,
did he ever voluntarily pay the full amount?
voluntarily pay the full amount? Not
No.
always.
Okay. It was sporadic, but he was making efforts to pay.
Yes, sir.
Okay? And once he was making some efforts to pay, he never got put back in jail or anything like that, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, in fairness, he also was able to avoid payment too, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did he work under the table at certain times?
Are you asking facts or my opinion?
Well, did you at some point find out through investigation that he was working under the table?
I, in fact, found out that he was working no longer in Florida.
So there's two different things. He was working out of state, correct?
Correct.
And that inhibited your ability to collect from him?
Correct. It inhibited my ability to collect the garnishment.
Mm-hmm. You would have to essentially chase him from state to state and try and get
Correct.
different child support judgments everywhere, right?
Correct.
And also, did he change employers from job to job so he was never with a single employer?
That's correct.
So realistically, your ability to collect from him outside of Florida was nil.
Yes.
Notwithstanding that, he did make efforts to pay you and buy things for Janae, correct?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
He kept in contact with Janae. Janae had her own phone. I want to make sure you all are hearing me correct. If there's any point, let me know. Janae had her own phone, which was monitored, so he would keep in contact with her. And when things came around, such as school, pageants, and pageants got pretty expensive, Mr. Segura, I came through with getting what was needed for that, as well as traveled and supported her.
Did he at every point exhibit resentment of any kind towards Janae?
I'm sorry, resentment?
Yeah.
No, sir.
Was it actually the opposite of that?
Did she resent him?
No. Was it did he exhibit the opposite of resentment? Did he have a positive relationship with Janae?
Very positive.
No further questions for the witness at this time.
Cross.
He knew that Janae was his daughter, right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And isn't it true that on many different occasions, he would constantly try and get you to reduce the amount so that way he could get better jobs in different locations and things like that?
I'm not understanding what you're asking.
He would come to you and ask you to reduce the amount of child support that he owed you so he could get better jobs and get better paying jobs.
No, sir. And if I may elaborate, not asked to reduce. He asked me to have him taken off.
Okay. All right. So he asked you to take all of it away so he can get better paying jobs.
Not to get better paying jobs so that way I can get more. He felt that if I took him off of child support, then he would be able to pay me more and do more.
Okay. So he's trying to get you to do away with the child support then so he could
And get rid of the middleman.
Okay. How much was he paying in child support to you?
I don't recall. I can give you an approximate.
That's fine.
540, 560, 580. It was in the 500s.
Okay, somewhere around $500.
Upward of 500.
Between $500 and $600. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. All right. No further questions.
Redirect.
Just to clarify, even after the reduction of the arrearage, he still owed you nearly $9,000 as of 2010, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. No further questions at this time.
All right. Any juror have a question of this witness? All right, you can step down. Do we need to keep her further? You're free to go. Call your next witness. Next witness.
It's time to defend. Call Henry Segura.
Say what?
Call the defendant, Henry Segura.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have one question. I was talking to Mr. Prince right now, and I know she's gotta go home. I have a question I would normally call during our rebuttal that I forgot to
Just
ask.
go ahead and ask.
Yes,
Come on.
That was a question.
You can just stay there.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Where do you live?
I live in Cape before.
Okay, and where did you live before then?
Are you asking during the time of the, I'm trying to clarify. what
How,
you're asking.
have you ever lived in Tallahassee? Let me ask you that, in the past, 6, 7 years?
No.
Okay, no question.
Your next witness.
It's time to call the defendant, Mr. Henry Segura.
All right. Come on up, Mr. Segura. Face the clerk to be sworn, please.
solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Segura, can you please spell your first and last name for the court reporter?
Henry Segura, Henry, Segura.
And you have 2 prior misdemeanors involving dishonesty, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What were you doing for a living back in 2010?
I was a welder.
And what kind of welder were you? Were you working with a particular company, or were you like an independent contractor?
I was working with different companies.
How did that work exactly? How did you get work? How did you find out where jobs were going to be at?
Mostly by word of mouth, sometimes through the internet.
Okay. And where would you go to do your welding jobs at?
Various locations from here to Washington State to Maine, Colorado, Michigan, Minnesota.
Did you hold any certifications or licenses for welding in any states?
No, sir.
How were you able or allowed to do welding jobs without any particular certification or license?
Once you get to whatever job you're going to, you have to take a drug test and you have to take a welding test. It certifies you for the job once you get there.
Okay. Is that what the all the gloves and the grease suit and the tools and all that we saw in the pictures of the back of your truck were for?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you were married in 2010, correct?
Yes, sir.
Who were you married to?
Malika Segura.
Did you have any kids with Malika?
Yes.
Did you have any kids that were not by Malika?
2010, yes.
Okay. And at that point, it would have just been Janae and Javante. If that was, I understand it's in some dispute, but Janae and Javante, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So one of your 4 children at that time was with Brandy Peters, correct?
Yes, sir.
How did you know Brandy?
I met her at a gas station.
And how did you guys end up getting into a relationship together?
We started talking on the phone first, and one thing led to another. Well, we had a sexual encounter, and I ended up moving in with her at Swakoko Village on Holden Street.
How did that go down exactly? Because you were still married at that time, right?
Yes.
All right, so how did that transpire that you were staying with Brandy but still married to Malika?
Whenever me and my wife first moved back to Tallahassee from Sanford, Florida, she was living in Quincy with her mother. I was living in Tallahassee with my mother. Instead of me living with my mother, I was living with Brandy.
Okay. At some point during that time, did Brandy become pregnant?
Yes, sir.
And subsequent to that, Javante was born?
Yes.
I guess the twins were older than Javante, correct?
They were 2 at the time when I met her.
Okay. Did you have any kind of relationship with the twins?
Yes, sir.
And what was that relationship?
They were like my kids. You know, they called me daddy. I potty trained them. I used to bring them to daycare, fed them, cooked.
How long did that go on for? Were you staying with her and taking care of the kids?
Let's see. Until Javante was like 4 or 5 months.
Now, when you say you were staying with Brandy, were you living there with her every night, or just there a good percentage of the time?
I was there a good percentage of the time.
Okay. At some point, did there become a question about whether Javante was your son?
Yes.
And how did that come up?
Sometimes she would get mad with me and tell me, like if I wouldn't come over when I said I was coming, she would tell me that the baby was for some other guy. And
Okay. At some point after you and Brandy were no longer staying together on the regular, did child support become an issue as well?
yes,
Okay. And in the course of trying to deal with that child support, did you at some point send a letter requesting that paternity investigation be conducted?
yes,
So far as you were aware, had any collection actions been taken against you by Brandy or the Department of Revenue prior to you sending that letter?
no, sir.
After sending that letter, was there ever an occasion when you went to a Department of Revenue office?
Yes, sir.
And what was that for?
To fill the paperwork out to put myself on child support.
Your testimony is you were facilitating the process at that point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What exactly did you do? Do you remember what you filled out?
It was pages of paperwork. I went there twice. It was on North Monroe across from Tallahassee Mall.
What was the paperwork pertaining to?
Just filling paperwork out to pay child support so that I wouldn't have to continue to give her cash money.
Like biographical information about yourself?
Work experience, where you work at, where you live at, your monthly income, your bills, your monthly bills, and stuff like that. If you're married, not married.
Now, as of the time that you were going through those child support issues with Brandy, you were already dealing with, or had been dealing with for some time, a child support situation with Tameika, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. At some point, there was an arrearage judgment against you facilitated by Tameika, correct?
Yes.
What did you do exactly to deal with that?
Well, I went to court and had the arrears that they had me that they laid out for me to pay. I had it reduced.
How did you get it reduced?
I showed them. Let me see. I think I showed them some receipts, and in the beginning, Tameika I showed them some receipts from when Janae was younger. No. That's with Brandy. When Tameika first had Janae, she had a birth certificate with Janae's last name is Brown, and she never told me Janae was mine. So when Janae was born, whenever she put me on child support, when I went to the courthouse, her last name was Brown, but Tameika changed it to Hawkins on her birth certificate. So when I told the judge about it, when he asked her about it, she verified that she did change the name, because in the beginning she told the judge that I knew that the baby was mine, and that's why I was supposed to pay arrears for the last 3 years or whatever. But when she had some other guy that was supposed to be her baby, her father, and changed the name up or something like that.
So there was some confusion for a while about who the father was.
Yeah.
Just as with this case.
Yeah.
Okay. Even after the judgment with Tameika got reduced, did it remain above $5,000 the entire time?
Oh, yes.
Did she have a tax lien against you so that any refund you got would be sent directly to her?
Yes, sir. She gets my taxes right now if I get them. Yeah.
Okay. What did you intend to do about the child support situation with Brandy after that arrearage order was entered against you?
See, with Brandy, it was different because I was at the hospital when she had the baby. I signed a birth certificate. I had receipts from clothes and helping pay bills and all that type of stuff. So I was going to bring all that stuff to court once I went to court, and that would have reduced the payment because it would have showed that I was in his life from the day he was born up until that judgment came out.
Okay. Now, what did your prior experience with paying partial child support obligation teach you about how to deal with these situations?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. In the course of dealing with the Tameika judgment, you weren't always making full child support payments, correct?
Right.
But after going to jail that first time, you never got put back in jail, correct?
Oh, right. Well, I didn't have to. This guy, some guy I met, told me that you don't have to. If you are ordered by the court to pay $200 a month, as long as you pay $50 a month, they won't put you in jail because they see you're trying. So I wouldn't have to pay the full amount, as long as I'm putting forth an effort to pay something.
Okay. Let's fast forward and talk about kind of what your relationship was with Brandy, like in the year, 6 months, leading up to the time when she was murdered. What kind of relationship did you guys have at that point?
It was an off and on type relationship, sexual mostly.
Okay. How many times do you think over the course of the 6 months or so leading up to her death did you hook up with Brandy?
I'm not sure about a set amount of times, but I know sometimes when I leave to go out of town to work, I will stop at her house before I left. Sometimes when I come back in town from work, I stop at her house before I got home. And so I don't know how many times that was within a year or whatever, but it was a lot.
Was Brandy the only woman during that time period with whom you were engaging in acts of infidelity?
No, sir.
How many other women, if you know, were you cheating on Malika with?
Um, 3 in Tallahassee. I'm not sure otherwise outside of the state of Florida.
Now, when you say 3, is that women with whom you were carrying on ongoing sexual relationships?
Yes, sir.
That doesn't count all the women who you were just kind of one-time encounters, or you'd meet them
Right.
somewhere and hook up
Right.
afterwards. Had you ever gotten caught by Malika cheating after the death of your son Jalik a year and a half prior to Brandy's death?
Yes, sir.
As a result of all this, but I mean in between when Jalik passed away and when you got arrested in this case, you'd never been caught by Malika, correct?
All right.
Okay. What was so, I mean, having been caught multiple times in the past, what was so significant surrounding the death of your son, Jalik, that, prompted you to make Malika want to believe that you weren't going to cheat anymore?
Well, I was in Crystal River, Florida, working at a power plant, and I had a girl with me. And Malika called me and said that all the family needs to get to the hospital. The doctor said that Jalik might not make it through the night. So as I'm riding back down the highway, coming back this way, I said a prayer to God, and I said, if you help my son to make it through the night, I won't cheat on my wife again. And I broke that promise.
And your son did make it through the night.
He did make it through the night. He made it to live actually 11 months old. And I think when he got around 8 or 9 months, I seen he was okay, and like I said, I broke that promise.
But Malika wasn't aware you hadn't been actually caught breaking that promise, correct?
No.
And in case it wasn't clear, how did Jalik pass away?
He was born premature. His lungs were not developed 100%. So when he came home, he was on a breathing machine, monitors, and taking all type of different meds and stuff.
In terms of the timeline leading up to the murders in this case, did you communicate with Brandy in the couple of weeks before the week of the murder?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of those communications?
She was just trying to find out when I was going to give her some money for child support and why I haven't came by to see her and Javante and stuff like that.
Okay. Did you make any plans based on your conversations with Ms. Peters?
Yes, I told her when I got in town I would come see her.
And did you keep that promise?
No, sir.
What happened when you got in town on the 15th or thereabout?
Let's see. I think I was bringing my son to school. We stopped off at McDonald's, got him some breakfast. Brandy seen me. She sent me a text message. She cursed me out. Just all kind of crazy text messages because I didn't come like I said I would.
Were those the text messages that we saw introduced into evidence that you had forwarded to Malika?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Based on that, did you, at some point on Wednesday the 17th, make any plans to go over to Brandy's house?
Yes, sir.
Did you do that?
Yes, sir.
And how did that go when you went over and met with her on the 17th?
Went good. We talked. I played with Javante.
Were you able to kind of chill her out on the child support issue?
Yeah, I told her I had just got shot. I wasn't able to work like I've been working. So once I get back on my long-term type jobs, it would be no problem to start sending her some money on a regular basis.
Okay. Do you recall getting a text from Brandy the next day, Thursday the 18th, about you looking good and she would have given you some if you weren't her baby daddy, LOL?
Yes.
What did you do when you got that text?
Well, I waited a few minutes and I think I called her.
Okay. Based on the conversation you had with Brandy on Thursday, did you make any plans?
Yes, sir. We talked for a good little while on the phone. I don't remember how long, but I told her I was trying to come over that day, but I think she said she had something to do, so we made plans to come by tomorrow, the next day.
Okay. On Friday the 19th then, did you have any conversations with Brandy on the phone?
Yes, sir.
When would that have taken place?
That morning, early that morning, I called her around 11, I think.
Okay. How long did you talk to her for?
It's about an hour.
And what did you guys decide to do based on that conversation?
Well, I was supposed to come by her house. I told her I would come by, sometime that afternoon.
Okay. At some point, did you leave your house and head up towards her house?
Yes,
Did you make it to her house?
yes. I went to her house. I got there around 2-ish, 2 something.
Okay. Was she there when you got there?
No, she wasn't.
Okay. What did you do when you realized she wasn't home?
I called her.
All
See
right.
where she was at. Said she was with her mother. She told me, so I said, I'll come back. I went to my sister's house
And where's your sister live at?
on Gill Avenue, around the corner from Brandy.
Okay. How long did you stay at Sean's, you think?
About 45 minutes, hour maybe.
Okay. Did you talk to Brandy when you were over at Sean's house?
Yes.
What, if any, plans did you make based on that conversation with Brandy?
Well, I asked her how long she gonna be, what was going on. She said she was with her mother. She was gonna pick the kids up from school for me to come by after that. So I left and I left my sister's house, went back to her house around 3 o'clock. I parked my truck at the church. That's where I park at when I didn't want nobody in the neighborhood to see me over there at a house that might know my wife and report seeing my truck at her house. So
Okay.
I walked down to her house. Her mother's truck was still there. So I went back to my truck. And
I didn't hear what you said there. So you park at the church so that nobody sees your truck. You have a pretty distinctive looking truck, correct?
yes, sir.
It's got the spoiler on the back and all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you said you walked over to Brandy's?
Yes, sir.
And what happened when you walked over to Brandy's?
Her mother still was over there.
How do you know that?
The truck was still in the yard. She has a white and brown Tahoe.
And why couldn't you go over with her mom there?
Her mother be tripping because she knew I was married and she didn't like the relationship that we and her had.
So what did you do when you realized Brandy's mom was there?
I just went back to my truck, listened to my music, and watched the video I had a TV on my in-dash CD player.
How long did you do that for?
About 30, 45 minutes, hour maybe,
Okay.
till I seen her mother's truck leave.
Okay. And what did you do at that point?
I headed back towards her house. I called home, checked to see if my son made it home from school yet. Didn't get no answer, so I went on over to her house. We had sex.
What time do you think it was that you got to Brandy's house finally?
It was sometime around 5, I guess, when I went in because I called my son. He normally gets home from school around 5.
Okay. Roughly how long did it take y'all to do what you needed to do?
15, 20 minutes maybe, not long.
Okay. Were the kids inside or outside when that was taking place?
But when I walked up to the house, they were across the street playing.
All right. Did you utilize any kind of prophylactic when you had sex with Brandy?
Yes, sir.
What'd you use?
I used a condom.
What'd you do with it after you guys had sex?
She flushed it in the toilet.
Okay. What about after you guys finish up? At any point, do the kids come back in the house?
Yes, she called the kids in, and Javante came in, and me and him was watching TV, and I was trying to play with him a little bit. He didn't really know me all that well. The kids, they was running in and out the house, getting stuff and going back across the street to go with the girls, the twins.
The twins
I was
were-
trying to play with Javante, talk to him, throw him up and down.
What was Brandy doing during that time?
She was on the phone.
Okay. At any point when you were over there, did Brandy eat dinner?
Yes, sir.
How did that go down?
Me and Javante was in the living room. She was on the phone. One of the twins came over with a plate of food. That's all I remember. One of the girls came over with the food. Once she came over, then Javante and her went back across the street. And it
So-
was me and Brandy was sitting down in the living room, and she was eating, and we
You
were
guys
watching
just
TV,
kinda hang out.
talking. Yeah.
How long after that did the kids come back?
I don't know, maybe 30, 45 minutes. Not long. It didn't seem like too long.
And what'd y'all do once the kids got back?
We sat there for a few more minutes, watched TV. I was talking to him. I told Brenda I had to leave. And she told me, well, about time. I got company coming anyway, nigga. And something she said, some slick remark like that, trying to be funny. And I said, well, that's what's up. So,
About what time do you think you left at?
let's see, I don't know, it was around what, 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock, somewhere around after 8 maybe.
When you left there, did you go home?
Yes, sir.
At any point that night, did you go anywhere back near Brandy's house?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, obviously, the explanation you've given here today is different than what you told the cops, right?
Yes, sir.
Why did you repeatedly lie to the police officers in the course of an investigation like this about your sexual relationship with Brandy and all these other women?
So I didn't want Malika to find out, and I know I told her I wasn't gonna cheat on her anymore, and I didn't think that it would lead to me being arrested for killing somebody.
That kind of brings up the call that we listened to between you and Malika once you got arrested. She says something to the effect of she's given up her life for you, and you say, well, it looks like I've given up my life for you too.
Yeah.
What do you mean when you say that?
Well, it's pretty much saying, if I'd have just told the police I was cheating on you, I wouldn't be in jail.
We saw in the phone records that every time you ever call Brandy from your phone that you communicate with all the women with, you star 67 her. Why is that?
She had a habit of, like, stalk calling, I guess you'd call it. She'll call, like, if I don't answer the phone, she's gonna call until I answer the phone.
Okay. Why didn't you want her doing that?
Because if I'm with another female and she's calling that particular phone, then the other female gonna be wondering, who is that?
Why did you leave your main phone, your primary phone, at your house when you went over to Brandy's house on the 19th to hook up with her, but not on the 17th?
If I'm not mistaken, I left it both times.
Okay. Why did you leave
But
it?
the reason I left it was because Malika, she had a way of, anytime I was somewhere I wasn't supposed to be, she knew about it. She could, I got an email address, she can get in my email address, she get in my Facebook account. I don't care what I did, she found out about it. So I just left the phone there and took the phone that she didn't know about.
Okay. What about the deleted texts? Why did you delete texts from Brandy?
I didn't need them no more. Wasn't trying to, I didn't want to see them, and I didn't want Malika to see them because it was in my phone that Malika be going through sometimes.
Okay.
It was some text in there that I didn't want Malika to see.
All right. Now, we saw a text about getting rid of the car. Can you tell the jury, despite the lack of physical evidence having anything to do with this case, why you wanted your buddy to get rid of that Monte Carlo?
That don't really have anything to do with this case, though.
I know, but why specifically did you not want the police poking around that Monte Carlo?
Because it was stolen.
Okay. When and where was it stolen from?
I don't remember what year, but it was stolen from Crystal River.
Okay. What was your
Well,
intent?
not Crystal River, but Homosassa, I think.
What was your intent for the Monte Carlo?
Restore it, fix it up, and drive it, maybe sell it. I don't know. I didn't know what I was going to do with it.
Okay. And to this day, the actual VIN number for that, you replaced the VIN plate on the dash, right?
Well, I didn't, but someone did, yes.
Okay. The actual VIN, though, is still stamped on the engine block, correct?
Well, I replaced the VIN in dash. It was changed. It was swapped out. The VIN, original VIN, it still got stickers on the car. Like, you know, it'll show you that the original VIN number is still, you know, it's opposite from the one that's in the dash.
So if anybody ran that VIN, it would to this day come back stolen.
Yes.
I want to talk about the revolver that both your friend, Mr. Moore, and your friend, Mr. Thornton, saw you with back around July sometime. Did you have a revolver back around July?
It wasn't a revolver in July, but I had a gun in July.
Okay. And what ended up happening to that gun? Tell us the whole deal about how you got rid of that gun. What all happened?
I was working in Alabama. My cousin called me. He was in Long Beach, Mississippi. He called me and said he had some issues with some guys. Wanted to know if I can come by and have his back. Since I was like an hour or 2 hours away, I said, yeah, sure. So I rode over there. One thing turned to another. It turned into a shootout. That's when I had got shot.
So what you told the police about getting robbed and all that was not accurate?
No.
Okay. You didn't want to tell them you'd been in a shootout? Okay. What happened to the gun that you had after that shootout?
My cousin took it back with him.
Okay. Now, the injury that you suffered in that shootout, you actually got shot in the stomach, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's why in the picture we see that big, like 8 or 9 inch incision on your stomach. Had you had intestinal surgery?
Well, they went in and they had to search for the bullet because they didn't have time to do x-rays, and they found a bullet down in my groin. So it was, they had, I don't know how many staples, but they stapled my stomach back up.
Okay. Did you have to miss work as a result of that?
Yes.
Now, in late November, around the time these murders occurred, were you back to full duty at work, or were you still restricted activity, restricted ability to do your job?
No, sir. I was still on light duty.
Okay. What was your pant size back in, I know this was like 7 years ago now, but what was your waist size back in 2010?
Like 34, 36, I believe.
Okay.
Like 36, 38, one or two.
And are you left-handed or right-handed?
I'm left-handed.
We heard testimony about you going over to Adam Thornton's house the day after the murder. Did that happen?
Yes.
What were you guys doing over there?
Just hanging out. Shot the bow and arrow. Showed me where his hunting stands was. We hung a red line for his dog to run back and forth. Throw the football.
When you were shooting bow and arrow and all that, were you having to retrieve some of the arrows?
Yes.
Where were the arrows going?
Well, he had like this big old hay, like a big hay bale, and he had like something in front of it with X's on it, and that was the target. And like right behind it was the little bushes or woods or whatever. It was
Okay.
With a fence.
Did you have to go into the bushes to get arrows on a variety of occasions while you were over there?
I didn't jump across the
Did you have to
fence,
reach
but
in there, I
I
mean?
reached in there, yeah.
Okay. Is that where you got those little tiny scratches that we see in the pictures?
Yes.
Okay. What about the older wounds on your hands? You said you had been doing some welding still, even though you were on late duty. Are those burns from welding and working with fire and all that at your job?
Like, to tell you the truth, I don't even remember. Like, it could have been a burn. It could have been me hitting my knuckle up on something, but 9 times out of 10 was a burn. I got burns like all over my hands, my arms.
You've heard the suggestion that you killed Brandy and her 3 children.
Yes.
Is it in you to kill anybody, let alone 3 children, including one of your own?
Heavens no. Especially not the twins. They were like my kids as well as more than Javante, actually. I raised them more than I did Javante.
I have no further questions for the witness at this time.
Cross.
A couple things I want to ask you about, obviously. On the day of the homicide we're talking about, so let's talk about the 19th, of November. You said you went over to Brandy's house and she wasn't there,
Yes, sir.
and you hung out there for how long?
I didn't hang out initially. I went back to my sister's house, and well, first I called her, and she told me she wasn't home. So I went back to my sister's house.
Her, your sister, or her, Brandy? I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
Her, your sister, or her, Brandy? I'm sorry. Which one did you call?
I called Brandy.
Okay.
She told me she wasn't there.
Okay.
Well, she told me where she was. So that's when I went back to my sister's house.
Okay. Back to your sister's house? Had you already been there once?
No, I went to my sister's house.
Okay. And how long were you at your sister's house?
Maybe an hour, maybe 30, 45 minutes, maybe. Something like
Okay. And then you went back to Brandy's house?
that. I called her first from my sister's house, and she said that she was with her mother. She was getting the kids. She
All right.
told me to come by after she got the kids.
All right. So you called Brandy from your sister's house? And she
Yes.
said to come on by?
Yes.
And if I understood you correctly, you then drove by. We saw on the map that there are two different entrances to Brandy's neighborhood. Did you come in that south entrance off Tram Road?
No, sir. In front of Fairview.
In front of where?
Fairview, up Zyla Street.
Okay, so you would have gone up to the northern entrance where the
Yes.
church is and
Yes,
everything?
sir.
Okay. And what happened next?
I pulled into the parking lot. I got out. I walked down to the corner. I seen her mother's truck in the yard. So I went back to my truck.
Let's talk about, let's stop there real quick. When you say you walked down, how'd you walk down? I mean, I understand you walked, but I mean, what direction did you go? You come down the street, you go through the woods?
No, down the street. I walked down the street. I think it was a sidewalk right there. You walk down the sidewalk, seen her mother's truck in the yard on the corner, from the corner, turned around at the corner, went back to the parking lot, got in my truck, turned my radio on, was listening to, I had it's like a BET video, but it was playing music through the speakers, but you can actually see the video while you listen to the music. So that's what I was doing.
Okay. Talk about her mom's truck. She had a SUV. So what did you say it was?
A Tahoe.
Okay, and it's white and brown?
Yes.
Okay. So you saw that. You go back to the church, and you're sitting in your truck. What happened next?
I seen her mother leave. Once I seen her mother's truck go up the hill, I get out of my truck. I walk back down the sidewalk, make a left turn to go to her house. I cut through her neighbor's front yard, and I walk in the house.
Okay. Did you call her again before you went back to her house at that point?
No, when I got out of my truck, I called my son to see if he was home, to see if he had got home from school yet. Brandy already knew what the deal was because I talked to her from my sister's house, and she told me I'm with my mother. Go and pick the twins up. Come by the house after I get the girls. She normally get the girls around 2:45, 3 o'clock, so something like that.
Okay. But you called and said, "Is my son home?" Did I understand that correctly?
Right. When I called, no one answered the phone.
Okay. All right. And then you went in. Were the kids there whenever you first went in?
No, sir. They were across the street. I seen them off to my right, across the street.
Okay. Did they see you?
I don't think so. They didn't speak. I didn't speak. We didn't acknowledge each other.
And they weren't playing out in the yard or anything like that?
They was not in the front yard, but they were like on the side of the house, so to speak, in between the house.
Okay. And as you're walking up, you're passing the kids and they didn't see you?
No.
Or your son didn't see you and say, "Daddy," or anything like that? Or the girls that you previously lived with didn't see you and say, "Hey, Daddy," or any of that stuff?
No.
Okay. And you got in the house?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then y'all start having sex?
Yes.
And she flushed the condom down the toilet?
Well, I don't know if she flushed it or not, but she took it off of me.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm just asking. The kids come home?
Yes.
Okay. And how long after y'all were done did the kids come home?
Well, she actually called them to come over there. 'Cause
She called them to come over?
Yeah, she just stuck her head out the door and called them to come
Okay.
home.
All right, so she yells out the door, "Come on home,"
Yeah.
and they came home?
Yes.
All right. Is that when they brought the food over? Or
No,
was it
sir.
later?
No, sir. It was later. She called them. The girls went in. They got something. They went back out to play, and Javante stayed in, and I was trying to interact with him.
Okay. So you're trying to interact with them.
Yes.
What do you mean?
Like I say, I wasn't really in his life like I should have been, so we didn't really have that father-son type relationship.
Let me back up a little bit. At some point you lived with Brandy and the girls, right?
Yes.
And how long was that?
Like what year?
No. How long did you live with them?
Oh, probably about almost a year, probably 8, 9 months, maybe.
Kind of get close with the girls at that point?
Yes.
In fact, I think you already said they called you daddy.
Yes.
All right. And that was before Javante was born, right?
Yes.
Fair to say it was probably when Javante was conceived and he ended up being born.
Yes, sir.
Come back up. You talked a little bit about your cars you had. You said the Monte Carlo that was stolen.
Yes.
All right. You had your truck.
Yes.
You have any other cars?
Yes.
What else you have?
I had a it was a 62, 63. I had a 63 Impala.
Cool car. Where'd you keep that one?
In the front yard, on my driveway.
So that was at your house too?
Sir?
That was at your house too?
Yes.
Okay. As I understand it, the reason you just told law enforcement you weren't over there because you didn't want Malika to find out about Brandy, right?
Yes. Well, I didn't want her to find out about me cheating on her, period.
Okay.
Not just it being Brent. She already knew about Brandon. She didn't know me and Brandon was still having sexual relations.
Okay. When you were over there on Wednesday, did Malika know about that one?
Yes, she did.
Okay, what'd you tell her on that occasion?
That, Brandon called me tripping, sending crazy text message, which actually I sent her the text message. And I told her I'm going to go over there, try to smooth it out with her, talk to her, let her know I'm going to give her some money when I get it.
Okay.
So it don't be no issues.
Let's talk about the shootout you're involved in Alabama, Mississippi. Where was it?
It was in Long Beach, Mississippi.
Long Beach, Mississippi. You said you were there with your cousin.
Yes.
What happened?
I was actually working in Alabama. I think I was in Bruton, Alabama. And he called me and he said that he was having an issue with someone and was wanting to know if I could have his back, make sure nothing happened to him. So I was like a couple of hours from Mississippi, so I drove down there.
Okay. And you drove down to get his back in the whatever situation was going on, and you ended up in a shootout.
Yes, sir.
They're shooting at you, obviously.
Yes, sir.
Y'all shooting back?
Yes, sir.
Let's talk a little about the child support you were playing with about your daughter. You were traveling out of state from location to location, right?
Yes, sir.
And you were doing that because you didn't want your wages garnished, correct?
No, sir.
And isn't it true that part of the reason why is because, one, you knew you were getting your wages garnished in the state of Florida?
No, sir. That's not why.
That's not true at all.
No, sir.
You were getting paid under the table, so you wouldn't have any wages garnished, correct?
Not at that particular time.
Okay. You weren't making it easy on her to get your payments, were you?
No, sir.
Now, Mr. Segura, you've had an opportunity to sit here in the course of the trial and listen to all the testimony throughout the whole trial, right?
Yes, sir.
You had an opportunity, obviously, in the 6 years leading up to this to review all the evidence out there against you, right?
I guess I could have. Yes, sir.
You're well aware of the evidence that's against you. You've already said it, but if you just told law enforcement you were over there, that you wouldn't be here today, right?
Yes, sir.
So you know the criticalness of these cell phones and the information contained therein about this case, right?
I know that if I wouldn't lie to the police about where I was, they would have seen my cell phone record and seen me telling the truth, and I wouldn't be here today.
And isn't it true that back in that interview, you told law enforcement officers to check your cell phone, didn't you?
I don't recall. I may have.
You weren't here for that clip that we played in front of the jury?
Yeah, I think I was here like the last 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I understand. Did you not pay attention to whenever your screen was up there and you said, go check my cell phone, when they were asking you how they're going to verify you were at home?
Yes, I said it. I don't remember, but yeah, I guess it was.
So you told law enforcement, hey, check my cell phone, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Yet you never told law enforcement officers which cell phone to check, did you? You didn't tell them about the 408 number, did you?
No,
Kept
I
that
never told him
secret
about
from
that.
them, didn't you?
No, I never told him about that.
You never told them about that one, right?
No, sir.
You set up where your 509 number was at your house, and you told them to check that phone number because that would say you're at your house, just like you told them, right?
Yes.
Let's talk about that 63 Impala. Remember that second video you had on the 30th? Right? Sound about right on dates?
Yeah, I remember that.
Isn't it true that whenever you were doing that interview, law enforcement were actually at your house serving a search warrant?
Yes.
And isn't it true on that time and that date, that 63 Impala was gone, wasn't it?
No, sir.
Wasn't there when they served the search warrant?
Yes, it was. You actually entered evidence with pictures of the Impala. Yeah, you took pictures of the Impala. It's in your evidence. I seen that last week.
It's on Monte Carlo, saw your truck.
Yeah, I seen the Impala. I know what it looked like. It's my car.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about that first interview. You were told, if I remember correctly, you got a phone call from Pint telling you about Brandy.
Javante. Yes.
Okay. And she told you about Javante, and she told you that your son wasn't found in the house. She thinks that he may be with the other guy, saying he's a daddy or some junk like that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was earlier in that day, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And she told you that your son was either missing or dead, right?
Yes, sir. Well,
Told
she
you-
said he was. She said that she heard that they couldn't find him. Is what she said. She said people saying they thought that he was with the guy Caleb.
Okay. And she also tells you those two little girls that you spent a year with that called you daddy were also dead, right?
Yes. And Brandon.
And Brandy.
Yes.
Yet you never made a phone call to Brandy. You never made a phone call to law enforcement. You never made a phone call to anybody to check on that situation, did you?
What could I do about the situation?
Find out if your son was dead or whether he was with somebody else.
Well, when she told me that she wasn't sure if he was dead or not, that was over the phone. When I called her to make an appointment to get my son's hair braided. Once I went to her house to get my son's hair braided, she then told me that, they found Javante. He was in the house. He died too.
So if I understand you correctly, you're being told by this lady that your son may be dead or missing, and that these girls that you lived with for a year are dead, and Brandy's dead, who you had just slept with the day before. And you decided the best course of action then was not to tell law enforcement, not to call anybody, but then just go ahead and take your son over to get his hair braided.
Well, actually, I don't know what to say about law enforcement. I wouldn't be here today if it wouldn't be for law enforcement doing the job how they're supposed to do it. So I don't know what help I was going to be able to be to law enforcement about finding someone who killed my son and his sisters and mother.
Never asked law enforcement during that interview. You asked about how your son died, right?
Excuse me?
During that interview, you asked how your son had died.
Yes.
Right? Never asked how the girls died, did you?
No.
You already knew that one, right?
No, I just wanted to know how my son died.
Going back, I've been to listen to this entire trial, review your entire statements. review the evidence against you. And that first interview, you actually went on a big, long, drawn-out story about how you came home after dropping the kids off, told law enforcement you were at the house, right?
I don't recall that. I may have, I guess. I don't remember that.
Told law enforcement that you came home after dropping the kids off at school, you came home
Oh,
to
yes,
listen
yes.
to Steve
Friday
Harvey,
morning. Yeah, I remember that.
worked all day in the cars, you were there all day, you fell asleep watching the 7 Years in Tibet. Around 10 o'clock, the kids fell asleep with you, all that stuff, right? None of that was true, was it?
Everything was true up until the part where I was at Brandy's house.
Okay. What about the fact at 10 o'clock when you were talking to Natasha and passing Publix?
Well, I wasn't passing Publix, actually.
Where were you passing?
I went down to, I was going to that first gas station, like where the roads cross at Crawfordville and Highway 61, I think it is. Yeah, I went down there. I was finna go to that gas station to get me a Mountain Dew, but I didn't have no cash on me, so I turned around. I didn't even get to the gas station.
So when Mr. Prince asked you, what, 5-10 minutes ago, whether or not you had ever left your house again after returning from Brandy's house, and you told him, no, I didn't, that was untruthful as well, was it not?
Well, he didn't ask me that. He asked me, have I ever left the house that night and went back by Brandy's house?
And you just happened to tell Natasha you were passing Publix, and she got that wrong?
No,
So
I
it's a
didn't say I was
different
passing Publix. I said I'm down here by Publix. I'm almost home.
Which Publix?
The Publix that's almost home by my house. It's the Publix. It's
The
the,
one off there on Capitol Circle and Crawfordville Highway?
right.
Okay.
That's the biggest landmark close to my house for Publix.
All right. Turning to that second interview you had, you told law enforcement that the last time you had sex with Brandy was over a year ago, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, they asked you again later on, maybe that Brandy was calling you because she wanted to rekindle the relationship a little bit. And you said, nope, I saw no signs she wanted to rekindle the relationship. All I was there for was to hang out with Javante, right?
They also asked me if I had sex. I was in a relationship with Natasha. I told them no, I wasn't, because I didn't want my wife to find out anything about any of that stuff.
They even confronted you again with the fact that something was going on. That you and Brandy had something going on. And you said no.
We did have something going on, but I didn't feel like it was their business. You know, we was having sex. It didn't have
You're
anything to do.
investigating the murder of
Well,
her and
exactly,
your son
a
and
murder.
your daughters.
Yes, exactly. That has nothing to do with me having sex with someone. My sexual life doesn't have anything to do with someone getting killed.
Your sexual life the day of the murders has got nothing to do with the investigation of the murder?
I didn't see it had anything to do with it at that time. No, I didn't.
Okay. Yet through all of that, you really didn't have a problem telling him that you went over there on Wednesday, did you?
No, sir. We didn't have
Well,
sex
you admitted
that
that,
day.
didn't you?
Yeah. I wasn't there but a few minutes that day.
Not a problem admitting you were over there on Wednesday. You just had a problem admitting you were there the day of the murder. Right?
I had a problem admitting I was over there when I know we was having sex, and I was there hanging out with her and the kids for a couple of hours.
Why wouldn't you tell me you were hanging out with your kid then? I was over on Friday, I was hanging out with my kid. You didn't tell him that, did
I
you?
didn't want my wife to know I was over there.
Well, your wife certainly knew you weren't home. We saw those texts. She was already on to you there, buddy.
Yeah. She's been on to me a lot, but that doesn't mean she knew what I was doing.
In fact, you told law enforcement officers that you actually received a text from Brandy on the Friday, right?
Yes, she did, yeah.
Okay. And when they asked you what it said, you said, it said, what's up? Right?
What's up? Why you hung up on me or something like that, yeah.
That's not what you told law enforcement.
Yeah. I don't remember what I told law enforcement, but
And what you told law enforcement was that you didn't talk to Brandy at all on that Friday except for that one text.
well, I actually talked to her like all day. We talked on the phone all day. How could I kill somebody if I'm talking to her all day?
Because they make you angry. They say things to you like, I'm going to throw you in jail.
No, I was
You're
not worried
talking to her
about
all
going to
day
jail.
trying to get her to do away with the child support issues because you want to go to Afghanistan so you can earn 6 figures. And she won't do away with the child support issues on this kid that you don't even believe is yours. And you got angry.
It's nothing she could have done that made me angry enough to kill my son and them twins.
So if you didn't believe it was your son.
Well, that's what they make DNA tests for.
True. And in fact, you were trying to get that DNA test done so you could get out of that child support. Another way you're trying to get out of
So
child
why
support,
would
right?
I kill her and my kids before getting the results of that test?
Because of law enforcement, because the state of Florida wouldn't do the DNA test for you like they did with your other daughter,
I just had to pay $300.
which you couldn't afford, could you?
Yes, I could have afforded it. I just wasn't home at the time. You
Well,
notice
according to that receipt that said you only had $190 left in your account
you talking about the one where I withdrew like $1,400 or $1,700?
and only had $190,000 left? Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ask or wonder what I did with the cash?
In fact, you had still, through all of this, you still denied going to her house. And in fact, you were asked over 23 times in the second interview about it. And every single time, you said you didn't talk to her and you didn't go to her house. 23 times. Right?
That's correct.
Isn't it true, Mr. Segura, that you just told Mr. Prince that you didn't have it in you to kill anybody, especially your son?
No.
Is that what you said?
Sir? Yeah, that's what I said, yes.
But that's not true either, is it?
Yes, it is true.
Didn't you just tell these jurors that you got in a shootout in Mississippi with a gunfire and you got shot and you were shooting back at somebody?
Yeah, well, I didn't say I was shooting back at someone, but there was return gunfire. And I do own a pistol. Like at that time, I owned a pistol.
And you're saying that when you're in a shootout with someone, returning fire with your pistol, you don't have it in you to kill somebody?
Well, if certain circumstances, if someone was trying to take my life, then I feel obliged to try and protect myself. But at that particular time,
you went there with your cousin for that purpose, didn't you, in that situation?
no.
No further questions. Hold on.
Further, Mr. Chief?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No redirect, Your Honor.
All right, any juror have a question of this witness? All right, write your question down, we'll go sidebar. follow-up question from the jury. Mr. Segura, what date did you get shot?
31st of July.
July 31st of 2010?
Yes.
Okay. Any follow-up, Mr.
No, Your
Frank?
No, Your Honor.
Hughes? All right, you can step down. All right, we'll take 10 minutes. Let the jury step out. You gonna have further testimony, Mr. Prince?
I do, but not today. The remaining witnesses will take probably 10 minutes each. They're being brought down here from Georgia. Material witness warrants were signed by a Georgia judge, and once those were signed, the witnesses have become compliant, so they'll be here Monday morning to testify.
You don't have anything further to present?
No, Your Honor. He would have been the end of the defense case, but we were able to get those two witnesses. Like I say, they'll both be very short.
Well, I guess you don't have we had agreed you didn't need to have your rebuttal witnesses till Monday morning anyway, so.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So we're not going to all of a sudden Monday come up with a bunch of new witnesses, Mr. Prince.
No,
If you want to call anybody else, call them now.
There's no one else, Your Honor, just those two witnesses.
Okay, and they're both going to be brief.
Yes, sir. It's Leon and Dahana Scott. I can't imagine either one of their testimony taking more than 5 to 10 minutes for direct.
These are the ones that were neighbors with the barking dog, that
Yes, sir.
situation.
These are the ones that we did the proffer on. We saw the SUV and all that.
How much do you believe you're going to have, Mr. Hughes?
Anticipation at this point, Your Honor, is probably 3 to 4 witnesses, relatively brief. Mr. McElfresh will be the longest one. Your court's heard his testimony. Even with, if I start at 10, I would still suspect that I can probably be close to being done by lunch or a little bit of a late lunch.
All right, well, let's talk about how we want to proceed. I want to go ahead and kind of give the jury an idea of how we're going to proceed. What's y'all's preference?
Your Honor, my preference is to move into closing arguments on Monday. The only concern I've got is that I understand that jurors, as well as I'm sure people here in the courtroom, myself excluded, have children that are starting the first day of school, and I know we've already had the issue arise regarding jurors wanting to be there when they drop their kids off. I can't imagine as a parent they wouldn't want to be there when the kids got home. If we do start doing closing arguments on on Monday, I would anticipate that that's obviously going to be a much, much longer day, and then we get into whether or not we're releasing him or not. Those are my concerns. I don't know that I have an answer.
Well, the other issue is once they start deliberating, we have to sequester them unless there's a waiver of that.
Yes.
Is it, do y'all want to waive the sequestration part of it or not?
I could have a moment to discuss.
Yep.
Your Honor, after discussing with Mr. Prince, I think you talked to his counsel, there's concerns about splitting up the different closings, because obviously the state has the first and last.
Who does?
State has first and last.
Right.
Yes, sir. And I have concerns about splitting that aspect up and sending them home in the middle of it. I think the preference of both myself, my
Under
counsel.
what circumstance would we do that?
If we were trying to cut it off where they can go home and see their kids and we just don't fit it in into Monday, was my concern.
I mean, if we start closing on Monday, we're gonna do all the closings. We're gonna
but
go to deliberations, we're gonna instruct to go to deliberation. That's why I'm asking whether there's gonna be a waiver or not.
Yes, I think we'd both prefer to just start closing Tuesday, both do closing Tuesday, and then,
But let me just say this, the only other issue we better think about is we've told this jury 3 weeks. We get beyond 3 weeks, we've got some jurors that got problems, because they've told us about things that occurred after that 3 weeks. If we do Tuesday closing and instruction and deliberation, if we don't get a verdict till Wednesday or even Tuesday night, so we're starting the penalty phase on Thursday, we're gonna have 2 days. That's what we're gonna have, because once we get beyond that 3-week time, we're gonna have a problem with this jury. I mean, I've asked your opinion and I want your opinion, but let's think it all the way through, because I'm afraid we're gonna have some jurors drop out on us if we go beyond the 3-week time frame we've talked about.
Mr. Cummings is indicating he doesn't think the defense mitigation presentation would take more than a day.
It should take less than a day. We really found our witnesses just like the state has tried to do in the trial.
Your Honor, my suggestion, for what it's worth, of course, is, and I know your court asked for it, is that we do jury instructions, because I know the courts typically, and assuming that it's still going to do what they normally do, where jury instructions are read prior to actually doing the arguments. Go ahead and read the instructions on Monday or prompt conclusion, because those are lengthy in a homicide trial, or can be relatively lengthy. And then Tuesday morning, we do closings all the way through, and then the state does not want to waive sequester.
Well, if we do that, we will need to start the penalty phase on Thursday, whether we get a verdict on Tuesday or Wednesday. So, I mean, I've told y'all I was going to give you a day in between, but that's not going to allow for that to occur.
And that's
So,
fine, Judge. We can make arrangements for everybody to be here Wednesday and ready to go Thursday, and if they have to wait, they have to wait.
and
from the state point of view, and I think we could work it with the defense and the jail if Dr. Pritchard is entitled to an evaluation of the defendant. That can be arranged in the evening hours if we want to handle it that way. So he would be ready to testify in case we need to call him. So that would be the only thing that we would need to make a accommodation for the state, is to have him given that opportunity. But like I said, otherwise, I don't anticipate the state's case in chief on penalty phase being too terribly long because of the evidence presented during the guilt phase.
I would really suspect you're not going to have anything, are you? Do you have any prior felonies on him?
No, it's just, would do a quick review. I would take a look to see if there is any possible witness, and if it is, it would be maybe an hour or two at the very most, but I don't really, at this stage, I really don't anticipate.
Probably more, you're just talking about perhaps some rebuttal with Dr. Leland.
Yeah, Dr.
But anyway, I just want to be clear, so I'm trying to think it all the way through so we can stay. We would have to finish the testimony on Thursday.
Yes.
That shouldn't be any problem.
Okay. I'm not going to split out the jury instructions from the closing. It doesn't. The jury instructions aren't any longer in this than they are in any other case, I mean, that has a, in fact, they're shorter than some I've had with complicated charges, but I think they need the instructions to be done simultaneous with the closing argument. How long is the state thinking they're going to take in closing?
Still working on it, but I would anticipate it's probably going to be an hour. Actually, it'd probably be more along the lines of 30 to 45 minutes for the first one, and then probably the same amount for the second one. But
So you need to get done before the jury gets done, as Judge Hall used to say. So,
yes, that's always a challenge, Your Honor.
what are you thinking, Mr. Prince?
Probably an hour, perhaps less.
Okay. Your Honor, I mean, I think we could do them on Monday, but then we end up with a sequester and then the kids and things like that. So that was my only concern there.
Right. Right. Okay, so tell the jury that we're going to break for the day. We're going to start 9:30 Monday morning. We have 2 brief defense witnesses. Have a couple hours of state rebuttal. We should be done with the testimony by late lunchtime on Monday. We will break at that point in time. We'll start back on Tuesday morning with instructions and closing. I don't know whether I need to get into it with them now, but remind me to tell them on Monday. I don't think I'm going to tell them now. Get them too fired up, but that when they come back on Tuesday, they need to bring a change of clothes, that they might be in a motel overnight. Bailiff's unit will be working on getting accommodations for Tuesday night, and we will, if there is a need for a penalty phase, we will start that Thursday morning, regardless of whether we get a verdict on Tuesday or Wednesday, and so that we can conclude it on Friday. I know things happen, but that would be pretty well my plan. Anybody have an issue with that?
Nothing from State, Your Honor.
No, Your
All right, so I want to go ahead and tell the jury that. Y'all have a problem with me laying that out to the jury?
No problem.
I think it's just good to give them a heads up of what to expect.
No issues from State, Your Honor.
Okay? Let's have a jury in, please.
You ready for it?
All right, everybody be seated, please. All right, I've been kind of hammering out a schedule with the attorneys. We're going to break with y'all at this point in time. I need to meet with the attorneys, and we're working on jury instructions, and we don't need you sitting here while we're doing that. The defense indicates that they have 2 brief witnesses that they could not get here today. Will be here Monday morning very briefly, and then they will be resting. The state's going to have a couple hours of rebuttal testimony. So Monday, again, we'll probably have another short day, and I know y'all think, well, let's, if we do it all at once, you get it done, but the thing is, once you start deliberating, we have to sequester you until we get a verdict. So if Monday afternoon we go into closing and instructions, that's about 3 hours or so. So it'd be 4:30 or 5 before you got the case. And, you know, I don't like to keep juries late. That's when they tend to get upset with each other, and then you don't get a verdict at all. So what we'll be doing, and I'm just kind of laying this all out so you kind of know what to expect. You know, we'll be done by probably a late lunch on Monday. We'll break Monday afternoon. We'll come back Tuesday morning, have instructions and closing argument, and you should have the case by lunchtime on Tuesday for deliberations. Once we start deliberating, as I said, you're going to stay till we have a verdict, or we sequester you overnight. So that's where we stand schedule-wise. I know we've agreed we're going to start at 9:30 on Monday. So that's kind of the outline of where we stand and why we're trying to do it. I know, you know, I know maybe you'd wish we'd just kind of have it all going, but sometimes it doesn't work that way. And at least y'all aren't sitting back there in the jury room watching, you know, watching the walls. Anyway, anybody have questions of the schedule? Anybody have issues? So we're going to start back Monday morning at 9:30. Same parking arrangement. Don't watch any media. Don't talk to anybody about the case. We've come this far. Let's not mess it up at this point in time. Anybody have any issues we need to deal with? All right. All right. We'll see you Monday morning, 9:30. Anybody have a problem with what I've told the jury?
No,
So